First of all, I want to just introduce myself. My name is Aldama, Councilmember for the City of Glendale for the Ocotillo District, the district that we're in here tonight, and it really is a privilege being your council member and seeing everybody here today. I want to introduce a few people. In the back of the room, Councilmember Sherwood, where are you? Councilmember, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Also, I want to thank Mr. Joe Quintana, Superintendent of the Glendale Elementary School District, for allowing us to use the gymnasium today, and his facilities director, Greg, is somewhere around here in the back of the room. Greg, thank you for being here. Also, that may be here is Jim Cummings from the Glendale Elementary School District taking notes, because it's very important that the school district that lies within some of those routes of Glendale Elementary School District and the light rail is here today, be representative of the school district. I also like to thank my father and our father of OLPH of the community, Father Mike Strahan. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Straley, I apologize. As you walked in, you noticed there was some drinks and some cookies out there. Those were provided by a business owner here in the Ocotillo District in downtown by the park, and it's Coyote's Odie. So please help yourself if they finish. I'm sorry if there's some more, you can take them with you. They're delicious. They're downtown. It's a local business, so if you get a chance to frequent the store, please do. It's a really good bakery there. I want to thank my council staff, Deanne Burt and Jenna Goad, for helping put this event on, taking notes today, and helping me through this process. So I appreciate the two of you. And before we start, I'm going to just ask a member of our city staff to come up, if you will, to introduce the staff that's here, and Valley Metro to come up and introduce your staff that's here, if you could, please.
Hello, thank you for having us here tonight. I'm Jennifer Pine. I'm the project manager for this particular study at Valley Metro, and there are a number of other people here from Valley Metro. Abhishek Dayal, who is the manager of the Corridor and Facilities Planning Department at Valley Metro. We have Howard Steere, who is a manager of community relations at Valley Metro. We have Wolf Grote, who is the Director of Planning and Development and Accessible Transit at Valley Metro. And we have Terry Groover, there she is, who's a Public Involvement Specialist at Valley Metro. Perhaps Matt can introduce the staff from the City of Glendale.
Good evening, I'm Matt Dudley. I'm the Transit Manager with the City of Glendale. On the city side of things, we have from Economic Development, Dave McClendon. From Transportation, we have Kevin Link. He's the Transit Administrator. Debbie Albert, who is the Interim Deputy Public Works Director. We do have Jenna Goad from the Intergovernmental Office. We have Patrick Sage, also from the Transportation Department. We have Sandra Adams. She is the Traffic and Education Outreach Department. And who am I missing? Oh, I saw John Froke around here somewhere, the Planning Director from the City of Glendale. I think that's about it.
This is a really sensitive topic that we're meeting on today. It really is has emotions mixed in it, because it's a decision that I have to make ultimately, and so does the mayor, and so does the rest of the council. But we're going to make those decisions based on, at least I am, based on your input today. It's really important that I hear from each and every one of you guys. If light rail is the choice that the council decides to have, then which route is it? And how does it affect you? How does it affect your children? How does it affect your grandchildren? And how does it affect you in your day-to-day doings when you're driving, you're riding your bicycle, you're walking? How does it affect your schools? How does it affect your churches? And that's why I'm hosting this meeting, so that you can have a voice. You can help me form an opinion. You can help me form a decision. On council, I don't make the decisions on my own. I get help from you all, and that's what we're here today for. The light rail is one of the choices that the council will have. The second is rapid bus transit. If it's rapid bus transit that we decide to do, it'll be less aggressive than it would be if it was rail, obviously. One of them being that we could share the lane, so I can physically drive my vehicle behind the bus. In a light rail, that may not be the case. But you all need to know that. And Valley Metro is here today, the subject experts, to answer all your questions, and our city staff as well are subject experts in that. But I've asked for all of you guys to be here today to bring your opinion and bring it with passion. Really talk about how this is going to affect you. If you are against the light rail and bus transit, I want to know that. City staff wants to know that. Valley Metro wants to know that. Your community wants to know that. If you're for it and you really are passionate about it and you think light rail is something that our future need and our kids need and our community needs, then bring it here and I want to know about it. All I ask is that we be respectful to those who are asking the questions to, because not any one individual here has the power to make the decision for light rail or bus transit to come to Glendale. Not one of us, not me alone, not any Valley Metro, nor any of the city staff. So the purpose of this meeting today is so that you can listen to a presentation from Valley Metro and the city staff, and then I want to open to questions from you to Valley Metro and to staff and myself, frankly. If you don't get your answer today, if you signed in and you put your address down or an email address, we will get those back to you. I have staffers taking notes for every question. If your question's not answered, we'll get that answer back to you. Allow me several weeks. Just like my mobile office hours that I do, and I go out and meet with the community, we take those questions we can't answer that day and we get them back to you. And if there's a question that needs more dialogue, then I'll dialogue with that individual through email or through a correspondence of a letter. Today, I do want some dialogue between you, our staff, and Valley Metro. I really, really do. Keep in mind we have up until 9 o'clock, and frankly, I can be here all night if you need me be. If you ask a question and it's answered, great, we can sit down and we can dialogue a little bit about it. If your question is not getting answered, then if you'll just respect it, we're going to write it down, we're going to get back to you. But please, those tough questions today is really what we need to have. So please don't hold back. Be respectful, but don't hold back on your passion today. And the last thing I want to talk about before I turn it over to staff is there's been a lot of comments out there on if it's light rail that the mayor, the council members, and I choose, that there'll be homes bulldozed, if you will, and there'll be churches knocked down, there'll be schools knocked down. I don't believe that any of our churches will be knocked down, and I'll tell you that I am your biggest advocate for not knocking down churches. I truly, truly am. While I'm in office, I won't allow one of our churches to be knocked down. Our schools are not going anywhere. I did speak to Superintendent Quintana about some of what's been said out there. The landmark school will be knocked down, and Isaac Imes may be knocked down should light rail come to Glendale. I don't believe that to be true. So I say that I want you guys to have the facts. I want you to have the facts from our staff, and if we can't get you those facts today, please allow me to get you those facts. Will there be some disruptions if the city council decides to bring light rail to Glendale? Yes, there sure will. There certainly will be. I'm not going to lie to you. There will be. You can't bring light rail down to Glendale and not have any disruption to businesses or to the community. I'm not going to lie to you. There will be. But with all progress, there's always that time of construction that holds us all back from the things we do on a day-to-day basis. It will. It definitely will do that. I won't sit here and lie to you and say it's not. I just don't know that route. If we decide that I don't know that route yet, you know some of the options. You're going to see the options today. If it's bus transit, it's pretty simple. It's real simple. We all know about that. It's a bus that comes through town. It may cause some congestion with traffic, but nothing like light rail. But keeping in mind the decisions that we're making today, or here when we decide to make that decision on council, it's years out before it even gets started. And a few years out even further, and you'll hear the details of when it actually even gets implemented. So when you decide to be for or against light rail or bus transit, specifically light rail, think about our future of Glendale. What do we want Glendale to be? What do we want our community to be? Do we want it to remain what it is today, which I'm really, really proud of Glendale and the Ocotillo District. I truly, truly am. I can live with the way Glendale is today. I want it better. I want a cleaner Glendale. I want a cleaner Ocotillo District. Sure, I want our alleys to be cleaner. I want better parks. But I also want better for our grandchildren and our families to come. Is that light rail? I don't know. But you're going to help me form that decision. But we have to think about where we're going in transit, how many our kids attending school, and how are they going to get there. It's tough for kids to get jobs. let alone get to their job. Can light rail help? Could bus help? Absolutely. I went to Mesa, I believe on Monday, and did a tour of their light rail, and I chose to ride the light rail back to not to Glendale, but to 40th Street. And I got to tell you, there's a transformation happening along the rail. But I won't lie to you again. I did hear stories of businesses that didn't make it. I'm not one to lie to you folks. There are people out there who lost their businesses. And you're probably thinking, why would he even say that? Because it's the fact. Businesses did lose. And there's some businesses who stuck around and flourished and are doing really good, and they do not regret their decision to stay. And then there's other businesses who weren't there for the construction and took advantage of what light rail brought to them, and their businesses are really flourishing. And then I don't know of any homes. I didn't talk to any specific homeowners. I talked to business owners. There was a lot to offer. There was one individual who said 1 year in advance of light rail coming, if that's the decision you guys choose to make, you guys need to have a plan in place for business owners 1 year in advance, not weeks in advance. A year in advance, a year and a half in advance. Start working with those business owners. If we decide to bring light rail, I want to support all of our business owners. I don't care how small your business is or how big it is. If it's light rail that we choose to bring, then I want to help you survive that construction period. It could be disruptive, but it could be the change that we've been looking for in Glendale, if that's what we decide. It could simply be bus transit. So keeping in mind, the decisions we're going to make is either bus transit or light rail. And staff will talk a little bit more about the details. I truly am passionate about a better Glendale, and I'm passionate about listening to you guys today. And I hope that you all have questions today. Please, if you're uncomfortable asking the question, give the question to somebody else. Maybe they'll ask on your behalf. Give it to me, I'll ask. Or give it to one of our staff and they'll ask. Please don't hold back today and tell us how you feel. I just ask you to be respectful. But this is not the last meeting that you're ever going to get to, but this is one of the most passionate, because I'm asking you to please stand right here in this microphone and tell me how you feel and tell them how you feel. Our staff needs to go back, and they need to go back to the departments and say, this is what we heard. And when I get back to you, when I write you that letter, whether it be an email or it be in a letter to your resident, I'm going to share with you a little bit of my passion about light rail or bus transit. So without further ado, that's enough of me. I'm going to ask Valley Metro to come up and start your presentation, if you will. And then at some point, you will turn it over to questions from the attendees. So please, if you will, just bring those questions up. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman, again for inviting us here tonight. So again, my name's Jennifer Pine, and I'm the project manager at Valley Metro for this particular study. And I'd like to start just with a few comments on the existing transit system and what that's doing. The numbers up here, this is ridership on the entire transit system over the last 10 years. And so it includes both bus and the light rail system that opened at the end of 2008. And so it's, it moves around a little bit. We're starting to plateau a little bit perhaps. But the numbers are over 70 million boardings a year on the existing transit system. So that's something that we're proud of and always looking to improve the service and try to attract even more riders. So the future high-capacity transit system has been contemplated for about 15 years now or longer. And so the map up here reflects some things that were actually on the ballot in Maricopa County in 2004 and passed, and it's a build out for a future high capacity transit system, which could be light rail, it could be bus rapid transit. The yellow line up here is the existing light rail system that you might be familiar with that runs through downtown Phoenix and Tempe and Mesa and continues up 19th Avenue. And so the area that we're going to talk about tonight that we're studying is this, oh, there we go. We are looking at this area here that's labeled 2026. So that gray area includes from 19th Avenue out to about 67th Avenue and from Camelback up to Northern. And that's the area that we've been studying as part of this effort to try to decide what the best way to serve this area with transit might be. It is 2026. That is the year when any project that we're talking about now would be operational. So it is into the future. A little background on this. This connection from 19th Avenue to downtown Glendale has been considered for quite some time. It would run through both Phoenix and Glendale, and so it was included in the 2000 Phoenix Transit Tax. It was included in the 2001 Go Glendale Transportation Tax Initiative. It was included in Proposition 400, which was the Maricopa County half-cent sales tax, and then it was again included in a Phoenix effort to extend the sales tax that was just passed last month. So it's been on the map for some time. And we are very early in the process. So this slide shows you a timeline. It wouldn't be operational until 2026, so it's a ways out. But it takes a very long time to build a project such as this. There's several years for construction, and then prior to that, all of the design and engineering. Prior to that, all of the planning. And so we are in this very early stage. But even though it's far off, there are some very important decisions that are being made now as far as what is the route, what type of transit are we talking about, and what's the best way to serve this area. So your input is very timely right now. It comes at a very critical time when a lot of decisions are made and really the direction is set for what this could be. So even though it's a long ways off, your presence and your input here is very much appreciated. So the study that we are doing right now is trying to answer two main questions. One is what type of transit would be most suitable in this area to connect 19th Avenue to downtown Glendale, and what is the best route for that transit. We've been looking at it for a couple of years, and we are looking to hone in on a recommendation before the end of this year that would then go to the city councils in both Glendale and Phoenix for an action on what the preferred route and transit type is. So this is just another map of the study area that we're looking at. So the area outlined in black is the area where we're looking to potentially provide additional service from 19th Avenue out to about 67th Northern down to Camelback. The map extends even farther west, and we are thinking about extensions in the future even beyond, perhaps out to the stadium, Westgate, or other destinations along the 101, and that reflects interest by a lot of people in eventually connecting to those places as well. So we don't want any decisions that we make now to preclude any of those possibilities or hem us in any way. So we have been looking at it for a number of years. We've looked at a lot of different alternatives over this time, and we've continued to narrow it down. So at this time, we're really focused on three options for making this connection. The first option is shown in red on the map, and that is Glendale Avenue for the entire way from 19th Avenue to downtown. And then we have two options that would be on Camelback Road. One that would come down Camelback, turn north on 43rd Avenue, then turn onto Glendale Avenue and take that into downtown. And another Camelback option that would take Camelback, then run on Grand Avenue for a little bit, and then turn up 51st Avenue into downtown. So those are the three remaining options that we're still looking at this time. And you might notice on this map that there's a box around the downtown Glendale area. And that's, I have a more detailed map of that area that I'll get to a little bit later in the presentation. That is a special case, I would say. The streets are narrower, there are historic properties, there are some specific constraints there that you don't see anywhere else in the corridor. So we're taking a special and particularly detailed look at downtown. As the councilman mentioned, we are looking at two different types of transit. One is light rail transit that would be similar to what you see on 19th Avenue and Camelback east of 19th Avenue. And we are looking at bus rapid transit as well. So the photo up here is not local. I think that's from in Cleveland, where they have a system that's similar to what we're thinking about here. And when we're talking about bus rapid transit or light rail, some of the similarities in how we're thinking about it is that either one would run in its own travel way, and that would allow this service to operate faster than the local bus that you might experience today. Also, light rail provides additional capacity. However, it is more costly. The capital costs are higher for light rail versus a bus project. So I wanted to comment a little bit about why a city or a transit agency or anybody else would choose to implement one of these projects at all, because as the councilman mentioned, and others would attest to, the construction can be difficult. And there are a number of reasons why other cities have chosen to go this route. One is to provide access to people to get to jobs and to schools or other destinations throughout the region more efficiently. Also to bring people to a place like downtown Glendale and support those businesses or use the services or attend the special events that you see in downtown. The high-capacity transit options that we're looking at would provide more reliable and faster travel options than the local bus that operates on some of these streets today. And it would also provide more capacity. So the bus routes on Glendale and Camelback are some of the busiest in the entire region. They're heavily used and would benefit from this additional capacity. Another item of interest related to these types of projects is economic development and the ability to attract revitalization to an area. And so that's something that we are looking at as well. Particularly light rail often is associated with this. And you see that elsewhere along the line in Phoenix, Tempe, and Mesa, that there's been a lot of interest in moving to be near stations on the light rail corridor or working along that corridor. Finally, a benefit of this type of project is that most of the traffic onto the light rail system is walk-up. People are biking the light rail, they're walking to light rail, or they're transferring from a bus. So it's a pedestrian-friendly environment. So usually improving the streetscape and the pedestrian amenities are part of a project like this. We have estimated how many people might ride this project if it were to be built. And so some of those numbers are up here on the screen. And you see it ranges for light rail from 5,000 to over 8,000. And that's people a day that would be getting on or off somewhere on the new project. The bus numbers are a little bit lower and actually about half. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that if you're riding the bus, it would require you to transfer more likely, whereas the light rail project that we're looking at would allow you to go to downtown Phoenix, Camelback, Central Avenue, if that's where you're working, as part of a one-seat ride. I wanted to comment on local plans because this is something we've been working with the City of Glendale staff with quite a bit. The Glendale Centerline Overlay District was adopted in 2011, which laid out a vision for the downtown area. So we've been working with the city to understand what that means and how a project like this could or should be aligned with those goals, which are looking at certain kinds of transit supportive land uses in the corridor, from residential and mixed use, to also maintaining the certain type of neighborhood character that exists here today. We've conducted quite a bit of public outreach over the last couple of years, and these are just some of the numbers. We will come and speak to any neighborhood or stakeholder group who would like us to come give a presentation or answer questions. We've put on public meetings specifically for this project. We've appeared at special events, maybe had a table at an event. And so we've tried to get out to the community and try to provide as many channels as possible for people to comment back to us on what they're thinking about this project. If I could summarize just a few of the things that we've heard to date, I would say that there's a fair amount of interest in the Camelback corridors. I think in particular the ability to connect with Grand Canyon University is one of the things that makes a lot of sense to people. I would say there's mixed feedback on Glendale Avenue, and that probably comes from concern about impacts on businesses in that corridor, and also interest about revitalizing that area, particularly the eastern part of the corridor from about 43rd to 51st or so. So now a few words on downtown Glendale specifically. So the map up here shows kind of the world of options that we started with, really looking at lots of different streets and trying to be very open-minded about what might make the most sense in downtown. And I guess we're still doing this analysis, but a couple of comments I would make is that the project would fit on any of these streets, but there are trade-offs because you're inserting a trackway that could be 26 to 30 feet into the road, and you're trying to maintain traffic lanes on either side and the like. So there are different ways to do it, and so what we're really evaluating, looking at all these streets downtown, is which streets are best suited to accept this type of project. Some of the trade-offs that you might have if you were to build it on one of the downtown streets would be you might not be able to keep 2 lanes of traffic in each direction. It might have to go down to 1. The on-street parking might not fit in if you build a light rail or a bus rapid transit project, or additional right-of-way might be needed, at least in some locations, if you can't make it work with some of these other trade-offs. So I have a couple of photos in here on downtown Mesa, just to show you, this is a downtown that did not have light rail and it just opened in August. So this is a photo that was taken before light rail was constructed. This is another one. It's the same location, actually, but just taken, I think it's from the roof of City Hall. And one thing I would point out is that they have 2 lanes of traffic in each direction. It's an intersection, and they have a left turn lane. They also have a landscaped median. This is really another picture of more or less the same place. And so this is after light rail in the same location. And so what they decided to do in downtown Mesa was go down to 1 lane of traffic in each direction, and the landscaped median is gone. So that's how they chose to fit into their downtown. And we're still figuring that out in Glendale. I mean, where the best place might be, or should it be there at all? But you know, these kinds of trade-offs are the kinds of things to think about. The main message I would say too is that in a situation like downtown Glendale, much like downtown Phoenix, Tempe, or Mesa, our project needs to fit the setting. You know, we don't make the setting fit us. It needs to be designed to provide a safe and attractive place for pedestrians and others who are using the transit system. This is just one more picture of downtown Mesa. Same location, actually, just a street level view where you can see the station. I think this was taken while construction hadn't quite completed, and just 1 lane of traffic in each direction. So to help us work through some of the issues in downtown Glendale, we have convened a community working group. The purpose of this group is to provide an advisory recommendation to the council prior to their decision on what route or type of transit might be most suitable downtown. So to convene this group, Valley Metro and the City of Glendale worked together to develop an application process and advertised it widely to receive the applications. So we actually received 48 applications, and we decided to accept everybody in order to be as inclusive as possible. And then 1 person decided to opt out. So we've ended up with 47 CWG members, and we started meeting in June. We've met 4 times. We've taken the group on a tour of downtown Mesa, and we're continuing to meet through October. So the next steps are continuing to work with the community working group and are working towards an advisory recommendation from that group in October of this year. We're going to be continuing to try to obtain additional public input on this project, and we plan on having additional public meetings in November of this year. We're going to be completing the technical analysis and ultimately looking to develop and put forward a recommended alternative for a route and a transit type for the councils to consider in early next year. There are ways you can give input. Of course, you're all here tonight, but you can also visit the Valley Metro webpage and provide comments that way. You can sign up for a project distribution list, complete a feedback form, which are on the table in the back of the room or where you first walked in. And you can tell it's a feedback form. It has the Valley Metro logo at the top. You can also request a presentation from any of the Valley Metro staff who are here today. And we'll come to any group and do a similar type of presentation or answer questions. So finally, that concludes my presentation. Up here on the screen are contact information for some of our community outreach coordinators. Terry Groover is here tonight, and you can certainly feel free to call, email, or contact them at any time.
Jennifer, can you take us back to the picture where light rail went down Mesa, please? So I'm going to ask you a question, and I said I'd be honest today, and some of the things that I'm observing, I want you guys to know the difference. So I just made a couple notes. Light rail in Mesa does not go into any neighborhoods, is that correct? Or does it come down Main Street, end of line, and come back?
So it does come down Main Street the entire way. So I'm going to look and see if anybody else who's maybe more familiar with this wants to comment, but it does not, it primarily goes through commercial corridors. Is that correct? Yes.
And we're going to get to the Q&A, but I wanted to make sure that we get these out, because you've seen some pictures, and before the pictures go away, that I just kind of make these notations. So if light rail was one that we chose to bring to Glendale, it would come through some of our neighborhoods. So is that correct? And through some of the business districts?
Well, and if you take a look at the downtown Glendale map, there are residential areas adjacent to some of those streets that are under consideration.
Okay. Thank you. So similar, a little different, but similar. And then the next one that I observed was, and while I drove or was a passenger on the light rail, I observed, but even in the picture I wanted everybody to take a look at, Mesa is much nicer than it was before light rail, but is it a fact that the roads, that roadway that the light rail is on, those roads are much wider than what we would see in Glendale?
Main Street in Mesa, it is a wider street. The streets in downtown Glendale may range in right-of-way width from a couple of them are 66 feet or so, and that might be like Myrtle Avenue. And there are actually some parts of Glendale Avenue that are that narrow, but they go up to 80 feet. For instance, Palmer is 80 feet, Lamar is 70 feet. So whereas Mesa, they were wider than that.
Okay. Thank you. And this isn't to form an opinion. This is just so you guys have the facts. I told you I want you to have the facts, and while looking at that picture, it looks like downtown the roads are a little much wider. And then one last one before we get to city staff, if they want to make some comments for questions. End of road in Mesa ends directly in Mesa, right in Main Street. So light rail comes up to Mesa and then stops and then returns back. Is that correct? The end of road. So end of road for Glendale, we choose light rail. We don't know where that would be. This one, this was really perfect because I think it's over here. But if light rail, if you can envision it, it comes here and it stops and then it returns back going east. But so I just wanted to make sure we had those comments before we start the Q&A. Is city staff going to have a presentation or make any comments? Okay, then at this time, I'm going to turn the microphones over to two staff members, and they're going to take questions, and we'll start that right now. Anybody that wants to raise their hand or simply come up here and take the microphone, or we'll take you the microphone, okay?
I went and measured some of the streets that they were talking about. I measured Myrtle, it's 28 feet. I measured Palmer's 28 feet. Lamar was 40 feet. Glendale, I didn't want to die, so I didn't measure that, but I would figure it's about 60 feet. I then went to 19th and Glendale, and I measured what that would be right there. That's 54 feet. From concrete to concrete, 54 feet. I'm an advocate for the bus, because the bus, I don't know, will the bus come at 26, or could that happen like right away? So that'll, okay, even then, Glendale, we can't accommodate a light rail, but we can accommodate a bus. And the destination for Glendale, in my opinion, would be the stadium, Westgate, and if I can say it, the casino. Anyway, and Luke, and further down to Luke, because, and people will get off along the way, but to have the light rail come in, it's not a fit. It's like trying to put a size 12 foot into a size 8 shoe. It won't fit. So I think with the bus, it's not intrusive. And also I looked, and there's a lot of concrete, a lot of work that has to be done to support the light rail. Whereas the bus, it's just coming and it's going. And you might have to do bus stops, you might have to cover some of the bus stops. But when I looked at it and I just thought, the alternative is the bus route. That's the least, and of course I didn't know how long it was going to take, but the bus could happen like tomorrow, and the light rail, it never gets done. You know, it's like a forever kind of thing. So Glendale, I don't know, there's no area that I can see that on your map that will fit light rail. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment on the width numbers, just to clarify, because I was talking about right-of-way widths that were 70 to 80 feet. That is what that number is, because the roadway is a portion of the right-of-way width. The rest of it could be on-street parking, it could be sidewalks, it could be just additional land that's owned as part of that right-of-way. And so I just wanted to explain that difference in the numbers.
I may not have heard, but is it impossible for light rail to come right down the center of Glendale without taking out businesses? Did you hear that?
Did you say, is it impossible?
Is it at all possible for light rail to come right down the center of Glendale Avenue through downtown without taking out businesses on each side?
I would say that it is possible. And what would that require? It would be a pretty big change in the traffic that can be accommodated on the street. And it might affect some of how the sidewalks look or are laid out. And it would require the replacement of on-street parking. So, you know, we haven't designed this, but that is, you know, what we would expect if you were to build it in that corridor.
I've heard some numbers. What is the actual width of this transit, the light rail?
So for two directions, it's 26 feet. If you're single tracking, and you see this in downtown Phoenix, and we have some other areas where it's just single track, it's roughly 13 feet of right-of-way, or basically between the curb and where the train exists.
Okay, but if you look there, you got that kind of island in the middle, and you got the two tracks, and there's no way else anywhere in downtown Glendale, something like that. And even if you got a train coming through, you still have to have room for the people to get on and off. And I just don't see how it fit in downtown Glendale.
So the reference to this picture here, there is a station in the middle of the street. So you do have your 13-foot of lane, and then you also have a station. In other sections, there are, in these more narrow stations, that's what our reference on the track, that would be where I referenced the 26 feet. Where the station is located, yes, there would be additional right-of-way required. And if, again, I want to reference some...
That's what I'm trying to get. What is the length in those areas? If you go from the side of the track, if you go from the track on each side all the way over, including the island in the middle.
The question is what is the total width, including the station? So what you're looking for is roughly 43 feet. So, I'm sorry, 12 feet plus 23. So it's 12 feet of station platform, and then 13 and 13.
Okay, this started out as a 4-lane street, correct? Lamar's a 2-lane street. So quite simply, we would have to double Lamar, which means that we would have to be taking properties north and south. I'm not sure how you could say that a church wouldn't be destroyed, because you're going to have to double those lanes. We have the police department. Once we get down here, we got a new steakhouse going in. When we get a little bit further in, what's going to happen with those? I mean, Jamie, this is simple. It's 4 lanes, we have 2 lanes. We're going to have to make that at least 4 lanes plus a little wider. We don't have the room.
If I could comment on Lamar specifically, that there's some on-street parking opportunities, and that would contribute if this really were to be placed there. And if I may, I'd like to just comment on the churches and kind of how we look at those in the planning process, because when we're in this stage, we go and we identify where are churches, where are schools, because we view them as sensitive land uses. And, you know, to be avoided, or certainly any impacts mitigated or avoided. In fact, we look at them as destinations to serve. They're places where people want to go. So we look at them as places to preserve and provide access to, rather than otherwise.
Yeah, it seems like everybody is concentrating on the width and the long and other stuff. Have anybody in your department have crush numbers and which one is more expensive than the other one? To me, by the time you buy business, you destroy houses, you make the streets bigger, it will cost a lot more than just fix the streets and get the bus. Faster too.
No, you're absolutely right that when we look at the costs for projects like this, it includes is there right-of-way that's needed, utilities, and all of the costs. The vehicles are a huge cost. Your point's well taken.
Let me ask a clarifying question before we get going. I don't need the microphone. Just so everybody knows, answer this question so we get a better idea. The proposal for downtown Glendale, or for coming to Glendale, is that 2 tracks, or is that 1 single track coming into Glendale and exiting? So everybody knows.
Okay, thank you for that question. So there has not been a decision made about that. I mean, there's a lot of different options on the table. There are a lot of different streets that are on the table, and there are different options with regard to is a double track where you have 2 tracks right next to each other, and you would have trains going in both directions. Then you could also consider something like, we call it a single track, which would be you have 1 track, and so the train might make a loop. So all of those things are on the table at this time.
Hi, my name's Chris Wagner. I'm the owner of Banner Tool, just right down the street here. And my concerns, well, my support would be more towards the busing, and I have a lot of big concerns for if we did run a light rail down Lamar there. One is, if you look at the types of businesses that are along Lamar, I challenge you to find anyone other than the brand new steakhouse that they're building across the street from me that would benefit from the light rail. None of these businesses, these body shops, my business, which provides services and sells tools, is not a destination for people to take a light rail to. And you talk about, Councilman Jamie, about all the businesses that did close during, from construction and that type of thing. I don't see any business along Lamar there that would benefit from it, and you could lose millions of dollars of businesses, taxes, revenue that is brought into Glendale by these businesses closing down, because we already have restricted access to us. Once we've closed off a lot of the access off of Grand for safety reasons, which I understand and I support, and that's fine. But now all of a sudden, I won't be able to have, deliveries, or people be able to find me for the services, and now they have to go somewhere else to find those services, whether it's a body shop from, many of my neighbors. I mean, who rides a transit to get their body shop done, body work done on their car? Nobody. It's not going to benefit any of the businesses. It's an industrial district. If industrial and residential kind of working together, I can't see how a light rail system along Lamar would benefit any of us. So I'd be a much better proponent of a bus system. If you are going to do a light rail, consider, why would they take the light rail to along Lamar, get off, have to walk across Glendale to go to the park or go to some of the other historic areas, restaurants and stuff. I mean, it just doesn't add up or make sense to anybody in this community south of Glendale that I can see.
My name is Dan Pratt. I own Pratt's Pets. We'll be open 80 years next year. Actually, my grandfather started it. I don't age this well. But, so I have a couple questions. One is the fire station is right there at 52nd Avenue and Glendale, and almost all of the routes go right in front of it. And I talked to the firemen there at that station. They have huge concerns about their ability to actually be able to respond in a quick manner. And they hadn't really had this on their radar. I brought it to their attention, and they were very concerned about the ability to navigate that. Is there other fire stations on other parts of the light rail where you've had to deal with that, is one of my first questions.
So I'll go ahead and answer that question about light rail and fire stations. So great question. We do have a number of fire stations along light rail where there is either double track or even single track adjacent to the ingress and egress of those site locations throughout Phoenix, Tempe, and Mesa. Most notable, there are a couple actually in Tempe. And what does occur is that we coordinate the design to ensure that there is unrestricted ability for those emergency vehicles to get in and out of that site location. So we would have to address that if that was the chosen site location and work directly with fire for ingress.
Okay, thank you. And then another concern I had, you know, along with Banner Tool, their concerns with the route that goes in front of them. I have a concern with the route going in front of me, and almost everyone I talk to has a concern with the route that goes near their home, business, or land. And I guess if you were really considering light rail, but if you were to say, well, I don't want it in front of my business or home, I would rather have it in someone else's business or home, I think that's kind of a bad policy. I was raised with the golden rule in my home. I mean, I don't know what, if you're religious or not, that's kind of a good rule to follow. If you really don't want light rail bad enough to be in front of your own place, then really you shouldn't want it at all. And because the same principles apply, it doesn't benefit anyone in the valley and in the area. The other question I had was that the money that comes from the ballot on 2001, the ballot specifically states that Glendale Avenue would not be built upon, correct? And I'm wondering why we're considering Glendale Avenue still, and would the council amend that? Would they want light rail bad enough to actually change the wording of what the voters voted in?
So let me answer that just a little bit, and then I'll ask Spirit to the subject expert on that. But so it's an opinion is what it is. And so what it reads, the verbiage reads that light rail can't come onto Glendale Avenue. That's what it reads. So those who read it say, well, why are you even considering it? It's not that it can't physically and be constructed onto Glendale Avenue. It's the funding in which the proposition provides can't be used for Glendale Avenue. But it can use other mechanisms of funding, for example, state funding, city funding, and it can use federal grants and federal money for it. So it could do that. So you can still physically have it. Lost my train of thought. But so you can still have it on there. And so to answer your question, does the city have the ability to change an ordinance to allow? Yes, they do have that. And I'm going to ask for a little bit more clarification. But yes, if the city wanted to, they could do that. So you read correctly.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Debbie Albert. I'm the interim Deputy Public Works Director over transportation. I know a lot of familiar faces from some of the other meetings that we've been going to. I'm going to go ahead and just read the statement just so they make sure I get it all covered, because we've been working through the city attorney's office on this for a little while now. But just a brief comment beforehand. I think it goes without saying that whatever decision council ultimately makes regarding the alignment and technology for high-capacity transit, it will be within all local, state, and then federal guidelines for these types of projects. Our city attorney has recently advised us that based on the state statute, public transportation questions referred to voters, such as Proposition 402, are advisory in nature. So remember, also in general, this was a vote, like Councilmember Aldama said, on creating a funding source for future transportation projects, and any alignments, modes, or other project details were illustrative and pertain only to Prop 402 funding source. So that's Prop 402 was the ballot initiative from 2001. There are a couple of things that I want you to consider, and this kind of came up in Jennifer's presentation a little bit ago, but roughly half of the funding for the proposed high-capacity transit project to downtown will come from federal funds. And by the federal guidelines, we are required to evaluate all viable alternatives, which would include Glendale Avenue. And this is precisely why we are here tonight, as well as the roughly 90 other meetings that Jennifer mentioned as part of her presentation, and also the creation of the community working group that we've been talking about, looking at the downtown options, because we, the city, as well as the project team that's all out here tonight, we want to get your feedback. We want to hear from you all to see what you feel is in the best interest of the community and overall the city of Glendale. And I'm going to go ahead and speak a little bit for council, but I do believe, based on all of the feedback we've received from council during our many briefings with them on this project, they want to hear from you too, so that they can make an informed decision when they go about looking at light rail and whether it should be coming to downtown Glendale.
Thank you. Was that all your questions? You had a few. Is that good? Okay, no, I'm just gonna. You touched on something that I want to get clear from Valley Metro here. So you talked about the fire department, public safety. That's a big concern. One thing I learned when I was in Mesa was that they implemented mid-track crossings. So the mid-track crossing is where in certain sections of the rail you can cross through it. But can you talk a little bit about how that rail structure would look like? Is there a curb, a rail, a curb, and a road? So can somebody just walk across that thing so that the audience knows how is that rail going to look like? So is it sidewalk, street, curb, rail, etc.?
Okay. And please let me know if I'm not understanding the question. So you're asking, like, for example, in Mesa, what does it look like if you're a pedestrian crossing in the middle of the block to go?
So how is the rail constructed? Is it just rails and it's flat ground, or is it curb on each side?
You'll see that differently in different parts of the valley. The typical is that you would walk out, and unless it was a designated pedestrian entry point, there would be a curb to separate the traffic from the track. And then there are identified pedestrian entries to stations or to cross the road or other locations to accommodate pedestrians.
So in Mesa, to that point, public safety has inlets and outlets to cross over the track should they need to get to a business on the other side of the track?
Absolutely, and the fire department and other emergency services personnel are included in our planning process. We actually have had some conversations with the fire department in Glendale, but that sort of discussion would really accelerate if a specific route is identified, because then we would talk with specific parties that might be affected and about what the right solution is in each location of concern.
So what you see for rail, you would see the same type of design with the bus. Because I think some folks have mentioned being able to just move routes around. There would be a fixed station, very similar to what you see with light rail, and then a guideway where there's literally the traffic traveling adjacent to you could not be in that same lane. So let's just make sure that we're all seeing and hearing the same things, because I think some perceptions are that if we went to the other technology, it would be what you see today. And that's not what we're referencing when we talk about high capacity, dedicated lane of bus rapid transit.
And let me make a comment to your comment. And my comment is not to be interpreted as trying to convince you for or against light rail, but you had a great comment. Don't only think, if it's light rail, don't only think that is Glendale a destination, but think about the destination you might want to get to. Tempe, Phoenix, Mesa. You might just want to get to the ball game and not use your vehicle. So think about that as well. Think about the destinations that we have to get to, or your children have to get to. Your child might be enrolled at Grand Canyon University but can't get there, but they can provide it that's feasible to them on a light rail or a bus to their college. It could be any college. It could be ASU, but don't have a vehicle. So it's not, don't misconstrue that as trying to convince you for it or against it. Just keep in mind that not only is Glendale going to become a destination should the light rail come, but the destinations we need to get to. So I just want to touch on your comment.
Well, the first thing, there's two concerns that kind of crossed my mind and have been for a very long time. At one point, I'm an artist and a musician, and I was looking for grant money to open up a gallery in downtown Glendale. And I spoke to a lot of business owners and trying to get just a feel. And I always felt that Glendale downtown would be the perfect spot. I spoke to somebody in I believe it was the tourism department. It was a man who gave me a book in downtown Glendale, so I read up on the book. clear back to 1901, and it was just fascinating to me. And he suggested to me that, yes, an art gallery would really, be a good idea. He also explained to me that a lot of the stores down there are mom and pop stores. They open up at 9, they close at 6, they go home to their families, and that's that. They're not corporate, big business, or anything of the sort. It occurs to me that if something like this were to go down downtown Glendale, disturbing businesses, which it usually always does, but in other locations, they're able to recover to an extent. When you're working with such a tightly confined community like downtown Glendale and some of the buildings surrounding it, their income isn't as high as another part of any place else. Like I said, mom and pop. They have their homes, they come here, they do their work, and then they go home. I believe, in my own personal opinion, that it'd be much harder for smaller businesses to recover during the construction of any kind of light rail through downtown Glendale. Tearing up any homes on either side, me personally, I would not, want that to happen. But I'm looking here, I'm looking at the map here, and I can see you have it going down, is that the right map, Camelback? Oh, okay. Well, the one I have in front of me here, it says it goes down Camelback, it hits Grand. Oh, one back, yeah. Okay, and goes, Camelback down to Grand, and then it turns right off of Bethany Home towards downtown Glendale. Would there be any issue or problem with it continuing down past Glendale and continuing on past, instead of going through downtown Glendale? To me, that seems more interesting because you're using more of Grand, which no one has built anything on there in such a long time. It could stop at that parking garage where everybody parks their cars, have a station there, and just keep on going, using more of Grand. Another problem that I can see with it going through downtown Glendale, so many of the events that go on there. It's the Glendale Glitter and Glow. You have the Chocolate Festival. You have the Jazz Festival. A lot of these things I can see really interrupted by the construction, for one, and after it's built, you're in the middle of a song on, the Jazz Festival, and you hear the big ding ding go down the street. I don't know how that would, go over, but it looks to me that a really good route would to keep on going down Grand. You can have a station right there at the parking garage where everyone parks their cars, and the bus can stop there. You can have some sort of crosswalk going over, and it can continue to go down Grand if that's the direction you're going instead of the, like Westgate. But if you were to use more of Grand somehow, you can start, again, connecting those outer cities like Wickenburg, Sun City, which I believe Grand was made to do in, 100 years ago. I believe that's why Grand was made. It seems to me that if you were to use Grand, instead of destroying any Glendale, downtown, any homes, you can have the transit and not destroy anything. So that's just my opinion, so.
No, I appreciate your comments. I did want to respond. We did look at Grand, actually. That was an earlier phase. We actually looked at a number of things that we kind of whittled off the map for various reasons. And some of the reasons related to Grand, why not Grand running, just the entire shot from Camelback up to downtown Glendale. There were a couple of reasons. One was when you look at the Grand corridor, it's not a very pedestrian-friendly corridor at all, and that's important to a light rail or a bus rapid transit project where people most of them are coming up as pedestrians or on their bikes, or they're transferring from a bus. And so that environment was a negative. Also, a lot of the land uses and the zoning along that corridor, it's industrial, which generally we don't consider to be very transit compatible. We're trying to be closer to where people live and where people work or where they go, for instance, for shopping or schools. So those were some of the reasons why we set aside the full Grand.
Instead of going all the way down Grand, okay, what street is Glendale Community College on? Is that 51st, 59th? 59th? could you stay on Grand 259th and head out to the college? And then after that, I really don't know. But instead of going all the way down Grand, can you split and go, you know, down 59th in Grand? Is that an option?
Well, I mean, I suppose a future extension could take a number of forms. You know, really for this project, we're looking to make that connection to downtown Glendale and make sure that future extensions are possible.
Two questions. First of all, does Centerline envision high-density residential? The second question, could you go back to the four alternatives in downtown? The community working group in the last 2 weeks had a preliminary vote on what they would vote for. Can you outline the one that they had more green stickers than red stickers on?
Yes, I can. And I'm sorry, who was speaking? Because I just didn't see. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It's just disconcerting to not know who's. As was mentioned, in our community working group, we did, you know, this was our starting point for working with that group. And we did do an exercise at our last meeting where people identified their favorites and least favorites, or least preferred routes among this set. And so the ones farther north on Myrtle and Palmair were certainly of much less interest and in opposition. So that was a clear trend. There's a large amount of support for the Glen options. There was some support for Lamar. There were some other ideas, like maybe look at loops that combined certain streets like Glen and Glendale. And so I would say kind of a mixed reaction on Glendale Avenue.
Hi, I'm Reverend Adam Magaña, pastor of Samaria Church here on 56 and Lamar Road. I brought my congregation with me. I don't know if they want to stand up, you know, in support. But we are against the light rail going down Lamar Road. We've been on the corner of 56 and Lamar Road for 59 years. Next year will be 60. And to come into our area would interrupt our services and interrupt our neighborhood. And I agree with what Chris said from Banner, and also my neighbor is here, Bob from Carl's Collision. We feel we're fine the way we are right now, and we're in support of the bus route better.
I just want to make a few comments about, I've lived here for almost 40 years in Glendale, and one of the reasons people come downtown Glendale is for Glitter and Glow, and we get 100,000 people. If a bus rapid or rail goes down, can you have the power to stop that for Glitter and Glow? Or is that transportation, would that always have to go? So are we going to lose the chocolate factory or the chocolate day? Are we going to lose all the things, the fireman parade that goes downtown Glendale? And I think we were down in Dallas, and Dallas has the DART that goes downtown, but they have the West End, which is the historic district, and it's 2 blocks north or south of it. And there is tons of foot traffic between the light rail and the West End, which would be our historical district. And there's restaurants, and there's always people out there walking. So just because it's not within a block or 2 of downtown Glendale doesn't mean it won't serve downtown Glendale. And I would rather see it be north of it, and people walk through the historic district and see all of our beautiful houses and the restaurants, and just keep the streets small, keep the trees up. That's what Glendale's about. If we want to be a Westgate, well, then we can have light rail going right down through like Mesa. But all the other light rail and all the rest of the city, most of it is 6 lanes of traffic. They've converted. You go down Central, you go down 19th Avenue. We are just way too congested. And where's all that traffic that goes down Glendale Avenue now going to go when you have a light rail running down the middle of it? They're just going to be backed up forever.
Let me take the first part of the question. So let me reference the operation of the system. So you referenced Glendale Glitters and activities. If you're familiar with the existing system, it does go through downtown Tempe as well as downtown Phoenix. In both those areas, there are special events that occur regularly. In Tempe, very specifically, there are a number of large events adjacent to the light rail system because of Tempe Beach Park, which is the second most visited site location in Arizona for events other than the Grand Canyon. So there's a lot of opportunity that we work very closely with the special events staff and public safety, along with Valley Metro's operations, to accommodate the special events. So what does that mean? It means that we don't like to stop operations completely because we want to get people to the events. Example would be New Year's Eve parties, 4th of July celebrations, or even there's a little marathon that they call the Rock and Roll Marathon with almost 40,000 plus in the street. So we just coordinate months in advance to ensure that we're accommodating that. In Mesa, they also have activities that happen in the street every second Friday, and then they also have motorcycles on Main, and then they have a very large street fair that they do regularly as well. And so those are existing conditions where when we develop the plan for operating, we take into account how to continue to operate with the events in mind. So there is an opportunity for that if a selection is made for any type of transit system, whether it's bus rapid or light rail, to ensure that those types of events can continue.
So I want to, Mr. Gears, I want to just answer your question a little bit, and that is one question that we are going to write down and we're going to take back and verify it. But I'm positive that so the question was, does the city of Glendale have the ability to, when we close a street for an event, to stop light rail on that closure? No, we don't. We don't have that ability to. That's what I feel is the correct answer. I'm going to get it back, and those who signed it, I'm going to get it back to you, but we don't have the ability to stop light rail. My assumption is that if there was an accident, that we would have the ability to work with Valley Metro to close it down to clear up the accident. But to do it for an event, I don't believe so. However, for an event that big, we wouldn't want to stop light rail because we would want light rail to bring people to the event. During the Super Bowl, light rail never stopped. There was no closures that stopped it. Now, granted, they may have routed street closures around the light rail, but again, it didn't stop because they needed to get people to the destination. So at this point, I wanted to just answer your question. No, we don't have the ability to stop light rail. The city can't just go out there and say, stop it. But I'm going to write it down, and we're going to take it back and clarify that 100%, but I'm positive that's what it is. Okay, just wanted to answer the question.
In dense areas, we look for opportunities to cross at every signal. So in a downtown corridor like downtown Glendale, there are opportunities definitely at the major intersections, and even some of the smaller intersections where there are existing signals. In some cases where there's higher pedestrian activity, we will implement what we call mid-block crossings that Councilman Aldama had mentioned in Mesa. We have those in downtown Phoenix as well, so that we do have an opportunity to cross so people don't have to walk as far to get to a destination. But that's all part of the design. It's part of what we do when we look at a unique downtown core to figure out how to make sure that there is, as Jen had mentioned earlier, make it pedestrian friendly and accessible for folks.
And what about car traffic? How often on car traffic?
So for vehicles, again, that would typically happen at intersections. And so for a downtown core, it could be much more frequent. So the question was every half mile. Like on 19th Avenue, it's every quarter mile. So every quarter mile, there's an opportunity to make a left-hand turn based on the light rail in the system. In other cases, though, where like if we're in Tempe or in downtown Phoenix, they're much closer. They could be block by block where we have intersections for vehicles to cross the rails.
Something that hasn't been discussed is, like with businesses, at least like with me, I probably got 50, 60, 70 vehicles coming and going every day. I got semis coming and going every day. Now, how are they going to get to me other than driving through residential area? I mean, right now, the way it is a straight shot off of Glendale, in and out. But here, if it was on Lamar, where I'm actually on Lamar, and I'm on 56th Avenue, I have about a half a block on both sides. So a semi would have to pull in, stop, back out. There'd be no way for them to get across. But you'd have just tons of traffic, and it'll all funnel through residential. I think that would be a big problem. What about the kids? How are they going to get to school? You know, they got to walk around and cross and this kind of thing. So these are the things that I think about.
And let me follow up with the question about safety and children in crossing. Most of you know that the system does, it does accommodate events. So in other words, like Arizona State University at a football game, you could have 40,000 people coming out of the stadium, and the rail system goes right by where the pedestrian traffic travels. And so we do accommodate and look for opportunities to ensure the vehicle is running safely. Now, we do have site locations along Central Avenue and again on 19th Avenue where there are schools immediately adjacent. One example is Central High School. Central High School, for those of you that are not familiar, the Phoenix Public Schools does not have a bus system, and so the students use light rail every day in order to access the school. We've got Brophy Prep right adjacent to it, and then Xavier. So we do look to ensure that we're addressing or looking at different ways to accommodate and ensure safety adjacent. And if you're familiar with Central, it's still a very wide street, and there's still a lot of volume of traffic. So we work very closely with the school district, our safety officers on site to ensure the safety of access.
Good evening, I'm Ron Kolb. Been in business in Glendale for 42 years. Raised in Glendale, spent most of my life in this downtown area. My wife is a native of this area here. We run a business that's not dependent on traffic coming and going, so from that standpoint it doesn't bother me. What concerns me is that light rail is a fixed asset. Once it's in, it's not going to be changed. They're not going to kick off routes in other areas. So they better be real sure that the route that they pick not only fits the needs of the neighborhood, but disrupts the neighborhood to the least amount of possibility of that. I would like to see where Phoenix comes into Glendale, 43rd Avenue to maybe 47th Avenue, put a station there. Let Phoenix end, loop back around, go to Phoenix and go to Mesa, and pick up buses or trolleys. Those are flexible. You can turn a bus where light rail can't go. You don't have to worry about going under Grand Avenue, over Grand Avenue. If you pick Palmer or you pick Glen, you end up at a dead end. You got to go worry about Grand Avenue. You got to worry about the railroad. Myrtle is one of the streets other than Glendale where you can get on about 45th Avenue, take it all the way to 67th. But it doesn't make a lot of sense. It bypasses the places that people want to go. I ride light rail, but I ride it for fun. I certainly couldn't depend on it for business. It's just not practical. I think if you had enough trolleys or enough buses that started somewhere where Phoenix ends, you could run normal ones that stopped every block. You could run express ones that went from 45th Avenue all the way to Westgate if that's where you're going. You've got the ability and the flexibility to meet your need and your demand. Once you put that light rail in, it's wherever they put it. It shouldn't disrupt, especially the old residences. Look at 19th Avenue in Glendale, for example. I'm guessing, I have no fact on this, but it's got to have been torn up for at least 3 years. A lot of those small businesses are no longer there. I stay away from Glendale Avenue and 19th because it takes so damn long to get across. You got to use something else. One of you made the comment that Grand Avenue is not practical because it's not pedestrian friendly. I got news for you. Light rail is not pedestrian friendly. You cannot cross a street unless you walk a block and a half or two. It's like Grand Avenue. For those of us that use Grand for business, you can't make a left turn anymore and go south into Phoenix. You got to go around in circles until you can get back on Grand Avenue. So if that's any indication of what our transportation is going to be like, you're going to hurt everything. As far as the events go, like Jamie said, if light rail is there, it stays there. They want to bring people into Glendale. If you use trolleys or you use buses, and we have an event on Glendale Avenue, we can bump the trolley up to Glen, Palmer, Myrtle, or we can go down to Lamar where we're not going to disrupt homes. There's other alternatives. I've sat in on most of the Centerline meetings where they brought the original routes and we talked about this stuff and the impact that it would have on Glendale Avenue. One of the biggest reasons, other than disruption of the business, that they don't want to come down Glendale Avenue is they feel it's not wide enough. Well, it's wider than Palmer, it's wider than Lamar. So guess what? You've got the cost, you've got construction delays. There's more common sense ways of getting people from 43rd Avenue out to the 101 or Westgate than this. And if you go with a trolley, like Denver uses it, California uses it, you've got the flexibility, you don't have the cost. The reality is, if the money is in place, you can get these buses or trolleys up on the road in 3 or 4 months. Hell, if you go with the light rail, it's going to take them 3 or 4 years to condemn property, start digging, and who knows when it's going to be done. If they pick the wrong route, guess what? You're screwed. You know, there's a lot of older people that can't walk 4 or 5 blocks to get on a light rail. They've either got to be driven or somebody's got to take them there. My suggestion to you homeowners or your business owners here, get involved. Don't let them start this project until the majority of the people in Glendale are comfortable with what they're going to do. That's pretty much it.
So that's precisely what this meeting is for, is for facts, and that Mr. Cobb's comment on when you build light rail, is it permanent? It's permanent. I ain't going anywhere. So if the council chooses to have light rail, he's absolutely right. It is permanent. But the decision not to bring light rail is also permanent, unless a Proposition 500 comes back, and that is possible. But keep that in mind. If that's your decision to support light rail, it is permanent. It's not like in 10 years, move the tracks and get out of here. So, Mr. Cobb, you're right. That's a fact. But also, if you decide to oppose it, and the city decides to oppose it and not pass it, then that too can be permanent. But just so you know, I said I'd be honest, and the honesty is, and the fact is that proposition can come back, and in 2026, is it? We could be right back in here. It may be me, maybe not, may not be me, but we could be back in the same conversation. If you want to change your government, get involved. Come to these meetings, speak your mind, and tell us really how it is and really how it affects you. But you really, truly need to get involved. I mean, stay involved in this issue, because it's not going to go away today or tomorrow. When we cast the vote, it will. And your decision, your opinion today will help me. But I ask you, as in the beginning of the meeting, I asked you to be passionate. Go home tonight. Talk, if your spouse is here, if your spouse is not, go home and talk to your spouse and ask them what they really think. What do you think? Do you want this for your grandchildren, or do you not want this for your grandchildren? Do you want it for your children? Do you need it for your parents? Go home and have that conversation, because I truly want to hear that. And at the end of this meeting, there's some information back that you can get a hold of me, my phone number and my email address. But again, this decision for light rail or not light rail is not only just for us today in the room, it's for our children and grandchildren. So we will live with that decision, whether if it's an opportunity that we felt we missed, or it's an opportunity we feel that we garnered and we have light rail. Truly, my point is, we have to think about our families and everybody that comes before us in years from now. So 10 years from now to start, 20, 30 years from now, we'll still have light rail. Will our children really benefit from it? We need to make those decisions today for our children. That's all I'm asking you. Just go home and don't make a decision today. And I did leave there's some surveys back there, and please fill them out. But that doesn't mean that that's what you're fixed on. But involve your family. Call your brothers and sisters, and call your grandmas and grandpas and say, hey, what do you think about this? So I wanted to make sure you guys just heard that from me.
My name is Angel Aguilar, and I drove a city bus for 8.5 years. And when light rail was going to start, I transferred from the city buses to light rail. I drove for 5.5 years a light rail train. And I just retired last 2014 of April. And I saw a lot of good and bad, as in the buses. And I sympathize with the people, with the businesses, and that's why I'm here tonight, to find out if they're going to tear up part of the neighborhood. I'm back in the neighborhood again, retired, just about 3 or 4 blocks down the road, right next to Lamar. And when I heard about, they're going to tear up Lamar, they're going to go through here, and I said, why would they put light rail I just did 5.5 years of it, and why would they put it on? There's no ridership here. You need ridership in order to make it work. And when we were at Montebello, it took 1 hour and 10 minutes exactly to get to the other, and the time points are much tighter than the city buses. And from what I understood, if you got over to Sycamore and Mesa and you were late, oh, they'd be on the radio, and all the other operators were listening. Oh, Angel's in trouble now. Oh, or vice versa. And it says the reason is we found out that if you got over there too late, the whole trip was for nothing. The ACI, which is the company I work for on light rail, would not get paid. Simple. So they really stress for you to get over to the other end on time. I think you're allowed like maybe 3 to 4 minutes. But anyway, because there's always trouble, there's always this or that. But I sympathize with the people that have the businesses here. And the city of Glendale has no business putting light rail through Lamar and whatever. You need ridership. And when I was there, oh, Tempe, Mesa, or Tempe especially, they have so many special events. Well, whenever I went out in the morning, I'd have to get up at 2 in the morning because I was one of the first guys to be at work. And I was one of the first trains out onto the main track. Everything eastbound is track 1, everything westbound is track 2. So therefore, when there were special events, on a regular day, you just used 2 trains. But on special events, mandatory, you go out with a 3 train. And I found out something, that whenever we stopped at a platform, and I had never seen so many people the first day we started doing special events, you could take people standing and sitting down, 800 people in one shot. Okay? That's a lot of people. Somebody's making a lot of chulo money here. Okay? And which is good. You want that. And there has to be some way for the city of Glendale. I can understand they're pushing to get it through Glendale for some reason. And but the thing is, what I noticed, every time there was a special event, baseball game, basketball game, whatever, oh man, the 800 people. And I would leave a lot of people on the platform because you couldn't get them all. But light rail, there's another train right behind, 10 minutes behind. That's it. Simple. They're constant because they are on a very tight schedule. If you could get something somehow to help the people with their small businesses here in Glendale, and you get some ridership, I mean, let's face it, it all has to end at that football stadium. You would not believe how many people park across the street at Sycamore that were going to the football games and all that, baseball games, basketball games. I said, man, there's so much traffic. You've seen the traffic. It's terrible over here off of the 101 and Glendale Avenue. Well, it would have to arrive there. The train has to stop there. But if we could diverge the whole thing over to, like the gentleman was saying, Northern or Olive, because the 19th Avenue track is going to Metro Center anyway. Yeah, eventually. So you diverge track coming down either Olive or Northern, you come around, because the train, like on Central Avenue going into Washington and Jefferson, it's real tight, but we have to go less than 10 miles an hour. It's amazing how tight that those things can turn. And turn it around and put a platform right in front of that casino and drop off and pick up and then diverge into Glendale Avenue up to the football stadium, because it doesn't make sense to come from the opposite side on Camelback. Being an I can only see it from an operator's point of view. Why come up from Camelback past Glendale Avenue to the casino on the platform, and the operator has to get out, key down, go all the way to the other end, key up, code in, compute in the computer, close the doors when everybody's gone inside and out, and then go again into Glendale Avenue to the stadium, and then take your 10, 15-minute break, whatever you're allowed, and then do that again, come back to the casino, or back to go back to the other end and go back to Camelback. It doesn't make sense. You got to come from track 2, which is westbound, drop off at the casino and pick up, and then go into the football stadium, you see? And then take your break, whatever, and go to the other end, key up, and then make it go back on track 1. And there has to be a way in order for Glendale to make money for the small business people and everyone, and at the same time get ridership, because Apollo High School and on ridership, oh boy, the kids, Central Avenue and all this, the gentleman was right. There's a lot of ridership with the kids.
Yep. Can I comment something? I just want to follow up on a point that you made about ridership, because you're absolutely 100% right that ridership is what we're trying to target. And so we're looking at where are people living, what is the population density, what's the employment density, where are the special events, and so we wouldn't put forth a project that didn't make it in that department. We're going to be competing for federal funds. It has to be a good project. We're going to be using, tax dollars. It has to be a good project. So we need to be confident that we're looking at something that will generate the ridership.
Isn't Cortez High School on Olive also? I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. See, there's another high school. Yeah, there's a lot of kids that could use it.
Students are a big part of our current ridership population. Absolutely.
There must be a way for a win-win situation for the business people, and the ridership, and for the neighborhoods.
Right.
But you got to keep it on a big street.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for the comments. Let's move on to the next person, if there's one.
I noticed that Route 3, the blue line stops south of Glendale. And this goes along with the rumor that I heard that north of Ocotillo, the north side of Ocotillo, will be raised from 51st Street to, 51st Avenue to the 55th. Now, is there a reason why they didn't continue the blue line all the way to Glendale? On the map, the blue line does not go all the way up to Glendale.
Okay, so on this map here, the question is the light blue line, it doesn't seem to go all the way up to Glendale.
Right, and it goes along with the rumor that I heard that Ocotillo, the north side of Ocotillo, will be raised for the reasons of stations and parking. And one of the reasons why I'm here, they said they could not tear down the old mill. They could not tear that down, but they could raise the area on the north side of Ocotillo all the way to 55th if they wanted to.
And actually, Ocotillo has never been one of our alternatives.
Okay. So the line just wasn't
The
finished.
reason why this line concludes here, all three of these lines conclude at this box, which is 51st Avenue and Glendale Avenue. And that's the point. We wanted all these three options to converge. And then when we look downtown, the goal is to identify a downtown option that would link into any of these three.
Hi, I'm Rosie Miller, and I've lived in Glendale all my life. I've also taught school in Mesa for a few years and served on a board in Chandler. And back in the 1960s, 1970s, Chandler, Mesa, and Glendale looked very similar. but they look very different today. And that's because of decisions that have been made. The Maricopa Association of Governments, MAG, offers us an opportunity to look at light rail for Glendale. And yes, there will be pain. Yes, there will be construction. Yes, it could get ugly. But we have to look at this and work what will work best for Glendale. If we want to be part of this transit system, like the lady here said, we want the ability for our kids to get transportation to ASU, ASU West, or Grand Canyon University. Our kids need those transportation links. We like to take in ball games and football games and stuff. Those links are important. We want to minimize traffic. But if we turn this down, guess what? Chandler will get the money that could have come here. Gilbert will get the money that could have come here. We need to work together to make the plan work for us. So whether it's a single train loop that we want, or whether it's double track all the way through Glendale, whatever, but we need to put our heads together and make it work for Glendale. This is our opportunity. If we throw it away, it's gone forever.
I'm Father Mike Straley, and I'm pastor of Our Lady Perpetual Help. I'm a newbie here. I'm only in my 5th year in Glendale, but I've been in the valley for a long time. I have some emotional responses. I don't want to go into those now. We'll deal with, but I have a real question. We're talking about two alternatives, essentially, in terms of the type of transit. But all we've really seen is a couple nice, pretty pictures. What I would like at the next presentation is some diagrams. I'm visual. You can't explain it to me, okay? So if you could do some diagrams. There's been a lot of questions about curbs and what's here and what's there and how, and then the whole thing about the bus. You know, I thought one of your things said that cars could follow the bus, and then it almost sounded like it didn't. And if you could just do some real clear diagrams on the two alternatives so that we can talk about those alternatives, because it seems to be presumed we're doing light rail or not doing light rail without any alternative. And it would be in the next presentation, and I'm going to invite you to come to my parish, you know, because we got 3,000 families. Okay, this is going to affect a lot of people, and it affects my school big time. Okay, so I really would like some clear stuff, not just the pretty pictures. Okay, thank you.
I asked questions earlier about the width for the light rail. What's the width needed to do mass transit?
So you're asking, like, what would the width be for the bus rapid transit? It would be similar. It would be similar, because what we're considering here is that the bus project would operate in its own travelway, similarly to light rail, to get those same speed and travel time benefits.
Good evening. My name is Bobby Caceres. I went around the neighborhood to invite people. I'd like to thank Father Straley and the congregation from OLPH. Father Magana brought his entire congregation with him tonight because they felt it was so important. I work in the community, many of you. In fact, I saw Alejandro here and a few others that are business owners that live in the Hispanic community. To my surprise, none of these people were aware that they were going to want to be coming down 51st Avenue down to Lamar. What surprised me more is that you have $37 billion, but we need to have common sense and say, in areas where you have Hispanic communities, I'm here as a voice for the ladies. There's 25 or 30 ladies that get together at the Adult Center. Many of them were here earlier this evening but had to leave. Our concern is if you bring anything down Lamar, it will affect the Capilla. The Hispanic Catholic Church has been a staple in our community since inception. All of us as friends and neighbors would like to see Glendale grow as one. We're not looking to divide, but we're asking that you come and you go door to door and ask people, would you like to participate? Did you know? Make it bilingual. I am so disappointed to know that you guys went and spoke to businesses. And believe me, I back up the business, and God bless Lulu. She's here from Betsy Mamas. I'd like to see Betsy Mamas in our Glendale area thrive. I know that people want the mass transit, but it's so simple. take it down Camelback like everyone has suggested, and I believe in the first in 2001 when it was voted on, okay, the plan was to take it to the Cardinals. You would have more ridership if you were to take it west on Camelback, down to Westgate, to the Cardinals, the Coyotes, the arena. You're building a huge medical plaza directly across the street from Westgate. We have the casino. If you were to go south, you could go to Estrella Community College, also connect on to Tolleson. You can go north, connect on to Peoria. Go east, and you'll be at Arrowhead Mall. We can do things and work with you, but I think we have to make sure that everybody is on the same page here, and we're not. Our Hispanic community right now, it is a threat. You say, well, it's 2025. No, there's plans that have been underway for a long time, and we know there's investors involved in this. That's why everybody wants it to go down our area. I'm asking that we take into consideration that every time that the train backs up on 59th and Grant, it goes all the way from the south side down to Maryland, all the way down to Orangewood. When the people get fed up, everybody starts making U-turns, and they start heading east on the neighborhoods. To have construction come and the encroachment into our Hispanic community, we want this community to exist now and in the future. We have a lot of young people, but we don't have the ridership of young kids. It's been suggested to go down by the college. Great. But, you know, we have to sit there and ask ourselves, transit may be good for Phoenix and Mesa and them, but they don't have the Cardinals. They don't have the Coyotes, but they can come by transit down here. We don't have to have it come down Lamar, nor Palmyra, nor Myrtle. Our kids need to be safe. And Councilmember Aldama, I asked you because you brought it up earlier, you know, the fire department. Right now, when anything happens on 59th and it's backed up, they have to go down and go over the bridge just to get over. We've been asking for 2 years for them to put a light up on Grand and Orangewood. We used to be able to ride through that neighborhood to get over to 67th. That's not an inconvenience for you to put up a light. Safety-wise, it would help Grand, and it will slow down the traffic for all of our students from Glendale High School that cross over. So let's really take into consideration, these are people's lives. Our Hispanic community, we want recognized and given the same dignity and respect that's given to other neighborhoods. When you go into a community that are Hispanic, you have to remember that we are a part of the fabric that makes America and made Glendale strong. Let's work together as one, and please take home with you, listen to our Hispanic community. Help Betsy Mamas and all the other businesses that are in Glendale. Mr. Banner was here. Help Alejandro. Help all the people that are on there so that they will flourish and be larger contributors than they are now. But I want to thank everybody that came out tonight, to our Hispanic community, and to all of our friends and neighbors. We will continue. I'm glad the Father has suggested we have a transit meeting at the church. I think that would be beautiful, because then we're talking about the people in our neighborhoods. And I thank you so much, because you guys have gone out of your way to try and accommodate us and to listen to us. And I'm grateful for that, and I thank you. This is not an attack, but I just want you to know that these people that were here and have left, they also will go home and they're going to ponder, what are we going to do tomorrow? What's going to happen? A few of them, when I was outside, said, well, it's a done deal. No, it's not a done deal. We still have a lot of work to do, but please reach out, and just like the politicians do, go to door so that everyone is aware. No one, until I presented Councilman Aldama's papers, did they know that this meeting was going to take place. They never even knew what was going on. We rely too much that the public is aware, and they're not. So let's take the time to include them, and that way there won't be any anger. Like there is no anger here tonight as people with their ideas. Listen to us, but please take our barrio out of contention for anything coming down 51st, because the very businesses that are going to be affected have been here for so long, from Pratt to Mr. Banner and everyone else. God bless you. I hope that everyone gets what they wish in the long run. Thank you.
You know, I keep listening to everybody here, and I keep thinking that it's being overthought, just how simplistic actually the route can be. I look at the blue line. If you were to use the blue line and it hits Grand, you would only have to really go down 2 more streets to avoid the downtown Glendale area. I mean, that would save on the tearing up and the story that I told about the businesses and stuff like that in recovery. But if you were to go down 2 more streets to Glendale, You would avoid the downtown Glendale, and you can either go down 59th straight north or make a left up Glendale to where all the money is up there at the stadium. Either way, you would not be going downtown Glendale and disturbing anything. That one building that holds all the cars, or, you know, that could be a stop right there. I don't know how full it is at any time, but that could be a point where it could be a turn, people can get off, you can go down to downtown Glendale. But I guess my thinking is if you were to go down 2 more streets, you can go north, you can go west, and add people to the bus like this man was just saying back there. But I guess my suggestion is avoid downtown Glendale. That suggestion would do it.
No, I appreciate your point. And, you know, to get back to something we were saying earlier, what would make a project like this successful is ridership. And so if you're going to attract ridership, you have to go where the people are living, working, or going to. And so that's why downtown Glendale is an attractive destination.
Okay, but would that matter if it was downtown Glendale or just right on the edge of downtown Glendale?
The people that put the green stickers on Lamar were not endorsing this route. They were endorsing a route that if the light rail went up Glendale to 51st, the light rail should go due south to Lamar and go all the way through on Lamar. And that was the proposal that was being put forth, not really this one that Valley Metro came up with. And what was the percentage? It's hard to say, but I would say somewhere around 25% of the 48 or 47 members. And why would they like that? Maybe because they had businesses on Glendale Avenue and it wouldn't bother them. It wouldn't put them out of business. Really, I don't think there's much support at all for Glendale Avenue all the way through. The street is too narrow in this area. It's just no good, and it would put a whole lot of businesses out of business. The one thing that we did all kind of vote for, the single most important factor in location of the route, if it goes through downtown Glendale, was minimal disruption of existing businesses. That was the #1 priority. And I thought that was, because I think we learned something from seeing what happened to businesses on 19th Avenue and then Central and the original construction. One of the things that we should be thinking about is what route would be where there is the least amount of existing businesses to be disrupted. Now, if you think about Glen Drive over in here, there's a parking lot in this 56th Avenue area, big old parking lot. You wouldn't take out any businesses. And if you get to this corner, 58th Avenue and Glen, you get to the location, that the most desirable location. We talk about stepping off the light rail and getting to the baseball game or getting to ASU Stadium. One of the really important things is having it take you where you want to go. And so for things like the Chocolate Festival and for the Christmas lights, Murphy Park is the historic center of Glendale.
Well, I'm really happy with the turnout today. It looks like observing the chair count. There's about a little over 100 people here today. Really happy with that turnout. The dialogue was fantastic. A lot of great questions. The reason for this meeting was to give homeowners and residents the ability to bring their questions and passionate questions, frankly, about light rail and bus transit, and I believe we accomplished that today, so very excited about that. Specifically to get a hold of me, please call 623-930-2249 or email me at my first name dot my last name, JAMIE.ALDAMA@glendaleaz.com, or write me to the office and let me know your concerns and your feelings about light rail and bus transit. But this is certainly shouldn't be designed for a short process, and I feel it's going to be a lengthy one and by design, and it should be.